Hi, Mikey Pung here, and I'm glad you're joining me for this video. I would like to tell another story of the same grandmother that I've spoken of several times now. This is one of her dreams that she had. This one isn't so much a dream that was repetitious, that was like a remote viewing type thing, like the dream about the Nazis in the concentration camps. But it is a dream that shows another gift. And so I'd like to share it with you. Again, former students will probably remember this story. It's one that's indelibly imprinted on my mind and my memory because I saw the evidence of it throughout my childhood. And this is what my grandmother dreamed. This was in a little town of Parma, Missouri, in southeast Missouri. The sign when I was young said population 500 when you would drive into the town. And I'll tell you this, just get this picture. It used to be so awesome to me as a kid, uh, being down there on a hot summer day. Humidity was oppressive, and my grandparents had no air conditioning at all. And we would sit out on the front porch in the afternoon. The sun was already past the edge of the house, so we'd be in the shade kind of, but it was still really hot. And the sun had been on that concrete porch all day. It was about 2.5 feet high, and it was rimmed in bricks. And we'd sit on the edge of the bricks, and my grandmother would tell stories. She'd bring us out one of those small Cokes, like the 6 ounce Coke, and it would have ice in it because her little bitty refrigerator down there, you had to get things really cold. You had to put them up on the top shelf next to where the little bitty freezer was that held like literally 2 trays of ice, and that was it. Um, and so those little Cokes were so delicious with the ice floating on top, and it was hot. And we would be just sipping them, and my grandmother would start telling stories. And she told this about being there in the town, about this dream. And there was no post office. I mean, you didn't have any postal service in the town that delivered packages. You had to go walk to the post office every day. The town was so small. It was about a block and a half away from 2 blocks away from my grandparents' house. Um, and so my grandmother in her dream saw uh, her preparing breakfast, and she heard my grandfather get up, and she said, what are you doing? He said, well, I'm getting dressed. I'm going down to the post office right after we eat. And so he did that in the dream. She heard the old screen door kind of screech as it scraped across the threshold. And he went down to the post office. When he got there in her dream, she saw my grandfather ask the postmaster if there was anything for them, any mail for them. He said, oh, Walter, I've got something that you're going to really like, I think. Um, he said, it's your anniversary, right? And it was their 25th wedding anniversary. He said, well, it was unsealed, and I wanted to make sure it was okay. And I looked in, he said, I think you're going to really like it. And so my grandfather in the dream, my grandmother saw him open the box and kind of move some packing away and look in, and he just smiled and placed it back. And um, the postmaster said, well, Walter, aren't you going to show it to me? And he said, well, okay. And so he pulls it back out and he holds it up. And the postman said, wow, that's beautiful. Puts it back in, closes it, comes back home and walks in the door. And he said, Rosa, I think I've got something here you're going to really like. It's a wedding, it's an anniversary present. And so he sets the box on the table and takes it out, and he holds it up, and it's one of those anniversary clocks. It has the glass dome and the fancy face with fancy numbers and the little 3 ball pendulum at the bottom that would just spin. And he held it up, and as he held it up, trying to kind of hide it to surprise her, through his fingers, right there, she saw the time was at 3:15. And um, he moved his hand and showed it to her, and she was very happy, and That was the end of the dream. The next morning, it happened exactly like she dreamed it. My grandfather got up. He put on the exact same clothes that he had put on. And he had no idea what shirt he was going to wear. Put on the exact same clothes, and he said, I'm going to go to the post office after we eat." And he did. And when he came in the door, he said, "Rosa, I've got something here I think you're going to really like." And she said, "I know what it is." And she said, "How?" He said, "How could you know?" She said, "It's a clock, and the hands are on 3:15." And he reaches in and pulls it out, kind of looking amazed. And there it was, 3:15. And she told him, "I dreamed it." And I think it's got something to do, it's an omen. I think it's got something to do with the time of our death, one of our deaths. Well, it wasn't like immediate for very many years, because all the years growing up, I was very little when they got that. All the years growing up, that clock sat on a bookshelf in their living room. And I would see it. And many times I would be around the afternoon, and 3:15 would come around, and I'd wonder, is it going to stop? Is it going to stop? Well, it didn't while I was going. But about, well, let's see. It was probably about 10 years later. I we got a call in the middle of the night here in St. Louis, and my grandfather had had a stroke, and we had to rush down there. And when we did, my grandfather was in very serious condition, critical condition, and he passed away only a couple of hours, 2 hours, I think it was, after we were there. And I couldn't help but, I mean, my mind was just, I wonder about that clock. And we took my grandmother home. We got there. My dad got the key from her and opened the door, and I wanted to see the clock. I ran underneath of his arm as the door opened to look at that clock, and it was stopped on 3:15. This was about already 7:30 or 8 in the morning. It was stopped on 3:15. And my grandmother came in, and after a while, she was going, I knew that it was going to do this. And what's interesting about this, maybe more so, is my aunt took the clock back home with her to West Virginia. And when she did, she thought she would have it cleaned, and everything, the insides all cleaned up and oiled and all that sort of thing, and get it working good. And she said that the first time around, it went around to 3:15. After she got it back home, it stopped, and she just left it. So uh, it's kind of a neat story. Maybe some of you have a gift of having seen signs or omens, or having dreams that are clairvoyant in some way. And if you do, I would encourage you to count it as a gift. Don't let it be a thing of fear in any way, because there was no way to do anything about the time of 3:15. It was just a sign. And here's the value of this to me now personally, is I know that there is more than just this realm, this plane of things. I know that um, we can tap into those realms. And I think that's part of why we come here, that we realize we get to enjoy all the beauty and all the complexities of life and the universe, and down to cellular level, just so many wonderful things that we can learn of and be interested in and process with heart energy. And when we do, uh, it should give us responses of love, of knowing that all of this we were part of. And it's intricate and beautiful, and yet, by the same stroke, it's simple. We're part of something that is greater than just what we can see and experience with our five senses. It's a part of these other realms that we can plug into. And I think that's why we come here. And I think we can enjoy that. A lot of people are fear that type of thing. And That's their ego saying, be careful, be careful, be careful. But heart says, take it in, use it, enjoy it, experience it. And if something needs to be done, it could be done, that could be helpful, can be done in love, then yeah, do that. You have the gift, you have the ability to see into things. So I hope this little story is one that might help with some of you with your healing. Maybe there are tales like this from your family that have some kind of significance for you, or things that you read about or hear about, see on from other sources. Um, take it in, and above all, trust your own heart. Look to your heart. Know that ego tries to protect, and sometimes it does that by making us afraid. And if we fear things, we can hate things or avoid things or try to stay away from or get those things away from us that create the fear. We don't need to do that. We can experience life, process it, know fulfillment and significance in this life by, by living according to heart energy. So do that and be encouraged and know your own healing. And until next time, love and peace.